The billionaire and the little girl, the gentle clinking of silverware, and the low hum of conversation drifted through the open-air courtyard of Le Jardin, an exclusive restaurant in the heart of Boston. Crystal glasses shimmered under the soft glow of string lights, and the air was thick with the scent of roasted duck and fine wine. At a corner table, Julian Price, a man in his mid-30s, sat alone. Dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, he exuded an aura of detached wealth. Before him lay a collection of gourmet dishes, perfectly seared scallops, a half-eaten plate of osso buccal, and a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon that he hadn't even touched. Julian was a tech mogul, a man who had everything: wealth, power, and influence. But as he scrolled through an endless feed of stock market data on his phone, he felt a profound emptiness. He had conquered the world, yet a deep, unshakable sense of apathy had become his constant companion. Outside the ornate gates of Le Jardin, a young girl, Lily, stood, shivering. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Her oversized, tattered hoodie clung to her thin frame, and her small, bare feet were streaked with dirt. Her stomach ached with a hunger she had been trying to ignore for what felt like an eternity. She had been watching the diners for an hour, hoping someone might leave a scrap of food, but no one so much as looked her way. A waiter came out, carrying a tray of half-eaten food, and tossed it into a large dumpster near the alley. Lily crept forward. "Hey, get out of here," the waiter barked, shooing her away as if she were a stray animal. "Don't you dare touch that. Filthy street kids don't belong here." Lily flinched and darted back behind a large planter, tears welling up in her tired eyes. But the gnawing hunger was stronger than her fear. Through the glass doors of the patio, she spotted a man in a dark suit sitting by himself. On his table were plates of untouched food, a basket of bread rolls, and even a small chocolate tours. Her mouth watered. "Just ask," she whispered to herself. Just once, summoning every ounce of courage, she padded barefoot across the elegant stone tiles of the patio. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Where did she come from? A woman whispered, her hand flying to her pearl necklace. "Isn't security watching the gates?" A man muttered, frowning into his steak. The head waiter, a tall man with a pinched face, strode forward, his polished shoes clicking angrily. "Little girl, you don't belong here. Leave immediately." But before he could grab her arm, Lily stepped forward, her big brown eyes locked on Julian. "Sir," she said, her voice a barely audible tremor. Julian looked up from his phone, startled. The small, fragile figure of the little girl seemed jarringly out of place against the backdrop of black tablecloths and glittering chandeliers. "Can I eat with you?" The waiter froze mid-stride. A stunned silence fell over the entire patio. Julian stared at her, his mind struggling to process the request. "Please," Lily added softly, clutching the hem of her worn hoodie. "I'm sorry to ask. I haven't eaten in 2 days." "Sir," the waiter said sharply, "shall I remove her?" Julian didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed on Lily's sunken cheeks and quivering lips. Something deep inside him shifted. Years ago, he had been a boy just like her, hungry, dirty, and invisible to the world. He remembered standing outside bakeries on cold nights, praying someone would spare a crust of bread. No one ever had. "Sir," the waiter pressed again. "Should I call security?" "No," Julian said suddenly, his voice sharp and clear. Everyone turned to look at him. Julian pushed his chair back and stood up. "Bring another plate," he said firmly. The waiter blinked in disbelief. "Excuse me, sir." "You heard me," Julian replied. "The best you have, and make it quick." Lily's eyes widened. "Really?" she whispered. "Yes," he said, kneeling down so he was at her eye level. "What's your name, sweetie?" "Lily," she answered, her voice still trembling. "Come on, Lily, sit with me." A new wave of gasps echoed around the patio. "Is he serious?" a woman whispered. "A billionaire dining with a beggar." Julian ignored them all. He pulled out the chair next to him and gently patted the seat. "Sit down, sweetheart. Tonight, you're my guest." As Lily cautiously climbed into the elegant chair, Julian turned to the waiter. "And bring warm bread first." "She's freezing." The waiter hesitated, then hurried away, a look of profound embarrassment on his face. Julian glanced around at the other diners, their faces a mix of judgment and discomfort. "You're all staring," he said, his voice carrying through the quiet courtyard. "Maybe you should ask yourselves why a little girl had to beg for food in the first place." The entire restaurant fell silent. Lily's tiny hands wrapped around the warm bread roll when it arrived. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "Thank you, sir. I thought no one cared." Julian's own throat tightened as he watched her take her first bite. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of warmth in his chest, a flicker he hadn't known he still possessed. The restaurant patio remained hushed, the sound of forks scraping plates gone entirely. The waiter returned with a platter piled high with roasted chicken, vegetables, and creamy mashed potatoes. He set it down in front of Lily and stepped back awkwardly, avoiding her eyes. "Eat as much as you want," Julian said. "No one here will stop you." Lily hesitated. "But don't you want it?" Julian shook his head. "I've already had my share. Tonight, it's your turn." As she ate, Julian leaned back in his chair, his thoughts a whirlwind. He thought of his own childhood, the cold nights spent sleeping in the Boston subway tunnels, eating scraps from trash bins. He had vowed long ago never to look back. But now, looking at this little girl, he realized he hadn't escaped his past at all. He had only buried it under a mountain of money and success. Lily wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "My mom used to make bread like this," she said softly, "before she went to heaven." Julian's chest tightened. "What about your dad?" Lily's voice cracked. "He left after Mama died. Said I was too much trouble. Said someone else would take care of me." She stared down at her plate, but no one did. A sharp pang shot through Julian's heart. He pushed his plate aside and reached for her small, grimy hand. "You are not too much trouble," he said, his voice firm and steady. "You're a child, and you deserve to be cared for, Lily." Around them, a waiter paused mid-stride. A couple at a nearby table quietly dabbed at their eyes with napkins. Even the stern-faced restaurant manager, who had come to confront Julian, stopped in his tracks. Julian looked up and addressed the room. "She's 7 years old. 7. And she's been wandering these streets alone, while the rest of us sit here enjoying fine wine and food we don't even finish." The silence deepened. "Look at her," he continued, his voice tight with emotion. "Do you know how much courage it takes for a child to walk into a place like this and ask for help?" No one spoke. A few guests shifted uncomfortably, guilt flashing across their faces. Julian turned back to Lily and spoke so softly that only she could hear. "You don't have to beg anymore. Not ever again. I'm going to take care of you." Lily blinked up at him. "You mean you're not sending me away?" "Never," Julian said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're coming with me. We'll get you warm clothes, a safe place to sleep, and tomorrow morning, we'll have pancakes for breakfast." Lily let out a small sob and threw her tiny arms around his waist. "I'll be good. I promise I'll be good," she cried. Julian hugged her tightly. "You already are, sweetheart. You don't have to prove anything." A quiet sniffle broke the stillness. The woman in pearls dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. A young waiter stepped back, openly wiping away a tear. The room had been silenced, not by wealth or power, but by one man's simple act of profound compassion. Julian stood, lifting Lily into his arms. "She deserves more than a meal," he said, speaking to no one in particular. "She deserves a life." As he carried her out, other diners rose to their feet, not in protest, but in quiet, humbled respect. One man left a crisp $100 bill on Julian's table with a note that read, "For her future." That night, as Julian drove Lily home in his sleek black car, she was curled up in the passenger seat, clutching a warm blanket. "Are you rich?" she asked softly. Julian smiled faintly. "I thought I was," he said, his voice gentle. "But tonight I finally feel like I've got something worth more than all the money in the world." Lily gave a sleepy smile. "You're the nicest person I've ever met." Tears pricked Julian's eyes. "And you," he said softly, "are the bravest little girl I've ever known."